Hello everybody and welcome to this webinar where we will be covering project setup from start to finish. Thanks again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here today. Projects are of many sizes and their needs are different from project to project. We will be covering the essentials in Vista Data Vision that from our point of view each project should have. At least some of these items. If you have any questions, you can always ask here on the right hand side or send us an email after the session. If you want a dedicated session for you and your team, you can also always drop us an email and we will set that up. I would recommend to grab a pen and some paper to write down notes during this session, as we will be going over quite quickly. Maybe not going in full depth of each feature. So if you have questions, you can always ask on the right hand side or send us an email or look at our help docs, help.vistadatavision.com for more in-depth information. So let's get to it, and I will simply share my screen here and I will log in. This system is, so to say, clean. We don't have a lot of information in this system during this webinar. When we start a new project, what we should always do in the beginning is to create an owner. An owner is an identity inside Vista Data Vision which all features and all data belongs to. So you can have one or more owners, and it's used to group all of the viewing options and all of the data into smaller groups, which is called owners. You simply then use the owners when you're doing users. So one user can have access to one owner or more owners, and then they will only see data and visualization that belongs to those owners. We will take a look at that here at the end of this session. But we are making a change, so we go to Setup and we go to Owner. We have here 4 owners in this system, simply called Project A, B, and C and Webinar. If we want to create a new owner, we will simply click the plus button here in the top right hand corner. So for this session, I did create an owner beforehand called Webinar. So I'm going to use that, but here we would create a new owner. Everything that we will do in this session will be connected to the webinar owner. So when we create a user here at the end, we simply give our users access to this owner, and then they see everything that we have created. All right. Next step after we have created an owner is to import some data. We have imported some data beforehand, but we need to import at least one more data file. So we go to here, data source. We have already beforehand created a file location where we are telling the system where our data is stored. We will then create something called file format. And if we take a look at the file that we are planning to import, we can zoom it in here a little bit. We can see that we have a header line in line number 1, and we can see our timestamp here is in first column where we have year, month, and day, and then hour, minutes, and second. We then look at our file format. We give our file format a name. We tell the system what our file ending is. It could be CSV, it could be TXT. It needs to be a numeric data file. We have a delimiter, and we need to select the owner which owns this file format. Here we have one column with our timestamp, and the timestamp could be in 2 or more columns. They don't need to be in column 1 and 2. They could be in column 2 and 3, for example. Then we have told the system that we have a header line in line number 1. We click here, update. Now we are going to import the data. we go to data source and file import. Here we are linking together our file location with our file format to import that data file into Vista Data Vision. We click the plus button, we give it a name, we select the owner. This is going to be our webinar owner. We select the correct data format that we were just looking at here before, and we tell the system, is it a single file, meaning data is being appended to the end of the file, or is it incremental data, meaning we're always getting new and new data or new data file each time the data logger sends in data. We then select our data file. We can click here the I just to confirm it is the correct data we want to import, and then we click next. This screen will just let us know that everything is as it should be. We are getting all of our columns, our timestamp looks correct. Here we can change alias names and we can select units. We can do that here. We can select voltage for our battery, and we could select here temperature for our logger temperature. I'm just going to click next, and finally we will click save. It's just a confirmation window to make sure that we have selected the correct file structure, the owner, the location, and so on. Now our data has been inputted. Vista Data Vision in the backend will grab the data file, input it into the database, and in 1 or 2 minutes the data will be available in the system. It can take a couple of minutes if you have a huge data file, but in most cases it is about 1 minute. All right, now we have inputted the data. Next step is to create contacts and contact groups. A contact is different from a user. A contact is a person that can receive information from the system. Information could be, for example, alarms or reports. A contact does not need to be a user. He doesn't need to have access to the system. He can only be receiving these alarms or reports. As we're doing a change in the system, we go again to setup and we go to contact. We don't have any contacts, so let's create a new contact. And we select the owner, and the company is going to be VDV. If we want to have the system to send us text messages, we would add here our cell phone number. Let's go on and create 2 contacts that are our clients. That is going to be the email. And it is here just client is the company. Let's create 1 more contact. At client.com, and the company is your client. So we can have 2 contacts, 5 contacts, 10 contacts, 100 contacts, as many as we need. However, we next will need to create a contact group. We go again to the setup, and we'll find our contact group setup. We do not have any contact groups, but I'm going to create 2 contact groups. One is called maintenance, and the other one is simply called client. So we now have 2 contact groups, which is called client and maintenance, and they have the owner webinar. However, we do not have any contacts inside of these contact groups. A contact can be in 1 or more contact groups. So if yourself, you can be in all contact groups, and each contact group can have just 1 contact or more contacts. So they can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 contacts in each group if that is required. So if I click here the client contact group, I can click here the contact icon. I will simply add here John and Maria. What I can choose from under the notification option is, should they only get emails, should they only get text message, or should they get both? In this case, I'm going to do both, although I forgot to add the phone number. Under my maintenance, I'm going to add myself. Under the maintenance, I want to get warnings and report about the maintenance of the project, for example, if battery is dropping and so on. And I want also to get email and text messages. All right, we have now created the owner, inputted some data, and created contacts and contact groups. The next step would be to create virtual variables. Virtual variables is the place where we are doing calculation of the data. We're taking the raw data coming from the data logger and doing calculation of it. Maybe one thing to notice is that the calculation is always done on the fly. So you have an equation. If you want to, or if you're requesting a graph of the virtual variable, the system in the backend will grab your equation, do the calculation, and push it to you. The thing to remember there, or to know, is that if you are doing changes to the virtual variable, is that your graph next time will be changed. However, there are a couple of options that I want to show you there. So we are going to make changes. You go to setup and we'll find the virtual variable option. We do not have any equations in the system yet, so we are simply going to click plus button to create a new virtual variable. So it brings us this list. So I'm going to create an equation simply here for piezometer. It can be used to do calibration of sensors, doing sensor offset. You could add 2 or more sensors, and you could doing average of those two. The raw sensors do not need to be from the same source, so they can be from 2 different data loggers. If we click here the information icon right next to the equation, you can see what available functions in the equation are allowed. So you can do quite complex calculations. The belongs to is, we are going to select here our piezometer site. The belongs to doesn't do anything except where you want to be able to find this virtual variable when you're adding a sensor to a graph. So if we put it under belongs to piezometer, we can then click on the piezometer site when we're adding a new graph, and there our virtual variable will be found. We select the unit, and here we have our equation. So I had the equation prepared beforehand. So this is my equation. I see here I need to include my digits, and then I'm going to click here add variable. I'm going to go to my piezometer site, and I'm going to locate my digits, and I'm going to click select. That will include a $13157 which is the ID of this sensor in the database. The equation is giving us still some errors because I still need to add the temperature reading as well. So I changed this value here to the temperature and the first one to the digits. In the variable list here below, the system will tell us this is the variable ID, this is the station name, and this is the variable that I'm using in my equation. So you can just double check that you have selected the right variables. My equation looks okay. What I could do if I wanted to, if my equation is a bit long, I could do constants. So I could here click new, I could do a constant called B, and the value is 8702.592, and then I could use simply B in my equation, and it will be doing the same thing in the back end, but my equation is just a little bit easier to read. It's always a good idea or good practice to click calculation example. This data vision will automatically grab the latest value in the database for both of your or all of the raw readings that are in the equation. It will show you the equation, it will show you the calculation, and it will show you the result. So if everything is okay, you would then click save. I'm going to create one more virtual variable as well. And I'm going to click cancel here. I'm going to grab my equation here really quick. And then I will add my raw readings. It's going to be this one here, and it is going to be the temperature for this sensor. So my equation looks good. I want to point out, if you need to recalibrate your sensor, something happened, you need to replace the sensor or just recalibrate it, you can here activate time variable, and then you will tell the system that this equation is valid from February 3rd of 2020, then something happened, and then you can simply click the plus button at the bottom. It will bring up a new window. It'll automatically copy paste the equation to the other window, and then you can say, all right, maybe last Friday, we did a calibration of the sensor, meaning that this equation here is valid from 3rd of February, but this equation here is valid from 27th of November. So we're actually using two different equations when we are plotting the data, but the line or the data will be continuous. So I'm going to click here, save. If you'd had more virtual variables, let's say you might have 200 virtual variables that you want to create for a project, you could then use the mass import option here, where you're creating all of your equations outside Vista Data Vision and then simply mass importing them using this here import function. All right, let's continue to set up our alarms. We go to setup again as we're doing changes in the system, and we will find alarms. Here we have a list of all of our sites. We have here 6 sites available, and we can edit any one of them. I am going to simply edit this one here, and I am going to simply activate this one, wind speed, for this particular project, because there are a few things I want to show you. If you look at this, we have 4 alarm limits: low, 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 high, and high, high. Meaning, if the sensor goes above high value or the high, high, we will have a yellow and then a red warning. If it goes below low or low, low, it's yellow and red, but we are going into the lower limits and we're still getting a warning and alert of the data. In this case, we're not interested in the lowest. We're not interested if the wind speed is 0. So in that case, we're simply going to type in some low values that we know that the wind speed will never reach, just because we're not using them. Then we could say if the wind speed is above 10 meters per second and then 15 meters per second, we will get alarms. There are a couple of options here with the alarm setup that are very powerful. First of all, at the bottom, we have two drop-down lists called client and maintenance. Here we have two groups. These are our contact groups. Maybe a bit confusing that I called my contact groups client and maintenance, but for this webinar sake, let's select here our maintenance group, which had myself in it, and then my client contact group, which had my two clients in it. What I can do in this here option, send low and high warnings, I might want to send these warnings only to the maintenance group. So I can select this sensor is only, if this goes to a high wind speed, it's only going to send to my contact group, the maintenance group. However, if it goes to a low or high, a critical alarm, it's going to be sending to both. So we can make sure the client is only getting the most important alarms. We can get all of the noise, so to say. If something is happening, we will be alerted first and then the client. So that is an option to do it. However, you can obviously just select maintenance or client in both options, and then just one contact group is being used. The delay here is very, very interesting. I'm going to put here 60 minutes. So normally, if we have this at 0, if the wind speed in this case reaches, let's say 15, alarm will be triggered right away. You will get text message, you will get email saying wind speed, boom, reached 15. However, the wind speed or any sensor might just stay there for 1 minute or 10 minutes or whatever. If we put this to 60, it means the value needs to be in the alarm state for at least 60 minutes. It can't be all in any other value, 120, so it needs to be there for 2 hours. If the value is still in alarm state, then alarm is triggered. A good practice is to keep it at 0. If you're getting a lot of bad alarms, then you change this delay. Repeat is as it sounds. If it's an important alarm, you can repeat it until it is confirmed. And then finally, for each sensor, you can have a custom text message. If this sensor goes to a high state, then this custom text message can be included to the people that are getting the alarm. So this will be included in the text and in the email. So just if this wind speed goes to a high state, then this text will be included along with, obviously, the timestamp of the alarm, the value of the sensor reading, and the sensor name. All right, so I think that is for the alarms. You can use the filter. If you want to do a filter, you could filter out 2 or more sensors using the filter, and then you can use this button here, which is mass edit. So you're editing all of the sensors that you have visible. So just for this demonstration purpose, I'm going to type in here 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I click OK, then these 2 sensors, only the ones I have filtered out, are configured. Very, very interesting feature, and can save a lot of time. As I have here 6 stations, I want to use the bulk alarms to monitor my battery limits. The bulk alarm, if we go to setup and bulk alarm, is an option or a tool where you can create an alarm limit and include multiple sensors. The sensors can be from different sites, and you can choose how many alarm limits you want to have. So you simply select all of your sensors. In this case, I'm going to select here 3 battery sensors or battery voltages, and this could be 10 sensors, 50 sensors, 200 sensors. then you choose simply your limits. So if my battery drops below, let's say here 12 and then 11, I want to get a warning and then alert. I have the similar options as before. I can choose here my contact group. What is interesting here with the bulk alarm is that I can choose something called time. If I want to, I can actually do different alarms for different days or different time of the days. So I can have this alarm for Monday to Friday or during our work days, and then different alarm limits for the weekends or for the evenings. We have here repeat and delay, but I'm simply going to click save. So this is a great time saving. Instead of going into each side and locate the battery voltage, you can just select them all or whatever sensor that you have and configure them all at once. You can also then easily modify them, and then you're modifying them all at once. Finally, what we will do is we need to tell the system to send us an email and text message if data is not being inputted into our system. That means there's some communication issues, something wrong with the data logger, so we're not getting any data into the database, and we want the system to tell us as soon as that happens. So here we have our 6 stations. I can simply click edit on any one. I will check the monitor. I will tell the system what is acceptable that this station is offline. This depends a little bit how frequently you are getting in data. Let's say you are getting data every hour in, and you should be getting data every hour, then you could set this to 2, 3, or 4 hours. So you will give the system or the data logger a chance to send the data next time in. If you're getting data every day, you would set this maybe to 2, 3 days. So you need to choose carefully what is your data collection rate, and you will set your data update limit accordingly. So in this case, I'm just going to select here 12 hours, and then I'm going to select my maintenance group. I want the system to send me an email if my air quality station goes offline, no data is inputted for 12 hours. What we can do if you have more than 6 stations, and this takes maybe 2 minutes or 1 minute, you can here use the 3 dotted button. You have here filter that you can use to filter out if you want to locate here our two weather stations. The filter is not playing nicely with me, so I'm going to skip that one. But what you can do is that you can click here monitor. You can set the alarm time 12 hours. You can choose your contact group, and you can actually do them all at once. If the filter was working here on my demo system, then it will only update these stations that you have filtered out. So if you have 50 stations, you filter out 10, you do this, then only these 10 will be updated. So now I'm confident the system will let me know if no data is inputted for 12 hours, send me an email, text message. If, for example, my pump station goes offline, the email will say, pump station is offline, no data for 12 hours. I could then go investigate it. I could take a look at the battery. I could take a look at the data logger and so on. All right, let's go on and create some visualization. We're going to create first off a real-time display. A real-time display is a great tool. Let's just create here a map overview where you have a picture either of the project, or it can also be a map. Let me see here, sorry about that. I'm going to select here a map. And the real-time display will always be showing latest data. I'm going to go into data groups, and a data group, maybe call this here water quality. A data group is a group on a real-time displays that have one or more sensors. So I'm going here to my water quality, and I'm going to select here a couple of sensors. Could be one or could be more. I will then simply click here Add, and I will place my data group approximately there. I can then create a new group that could be air quality. And I will click here Add variable. I will locate my air quality station, and let's go in and add a couple of air quality parameters. My air quality station is located approximately there. Let's create a new one that could be here a weather station. And I am simply going to include my air temperature, relative humidity, and wind speed. For each data group, you can create a pointer so here we have a pointer. You simply point, you click where you want the pointer to start, and then you click again where you want the pointer to end. So if we click here, we see that we have water quality, air quality, and weather station data group. You can obviously have more data groups. In this case, we're just going to have 3. A good practice is to use the X and Y coordinates. So 0.0 is the top left of your picture. So if I wanted to move, for example, my water quality, I could here type in 270 and 250. So it will be moved on my real-time display. This is just a good practice just to align all of your data groups to align them. A good practice in the real-time display is going into general, and I would recommend to display alarm status. If you decide to display the alarm status, all of your configurations of the alarms, in this case our wind speed, will be displayed green, yellow, and red depending on the limits that you have set in the alarm setup. So if this goes above 10, it will go to yellow and then 15 red. It also works for the bulk alarm limits. I will then come here and I will increase my line padding a little bit. I will increase my name of my data groups, and I might want to change here my background color just to have it look a little bit nicer. So I have now my real-time display created, a little bit different real-time display. Could be a cross section. So I could come in here, have my cross section. I could go in and create a data group. Simply call them. And I could then add my piezometers that I created using virtual variables. So again, they can be used here in the cross section or in the real-time display or anywhere else in this system. What is interesting with the real-time display is that you can do navigation. So navigation is that you can easily create a link from one real-time display without being any developer. So I'm just selecting here. I want to have a link. Let's maybe put it up into the corner. So here I have a link called Overview Map. If I click on it, I will actually be taken to my other real-time display. What is then a good practice? I might want to change this here. That's might be better. What you can then do from the map overview is that you can create a link to the other real-time display, in this our cross section. Could put it up there. we could then manually move it to 10.10. So now we have created very quickly 2 real-time displays. There's one thing I wanted to do with the real-time displays that I often do in all of the project that I'm doing is the photos. So a photo just can give a very just nice details about the project. Installation. And we click save. Here we have one photo, and we often just want to add it right next to the data group that this photo belongs to. You could have 1 or 2 photos per data group, and then you might have a couple of photos. So when somebody is looking at the real-time display, they can click the photo and see what's see how things are on site. So it can give a great, just in-depth information about the project. Especially if you're getting somebody on board of the project, you can just have them look at the real-time display and they can take a look at the pictures. How the real-time display, if we just take a look at that here briefly, we will have here our real-time display. With the real-time display, you can click on any sensor to take a look at like a quick pop-up graph. Here the color is green because we have no alarm on our wind speed. And it also shows the latest timestamp. If I click here the photo icon, it will show me, as you expected, the photo that I added. If I click here the cross section, it will, as you expected, take me to the cross section. All right, next step would be to create a dashboard. So a one project dashboard that our client might be interested in looking at each morning. So the dashboard is very powerful. I'm going to create a couple of items on my dashboard. You can here use the mouse to increase the height of each row, and in this row or in this box you can then choose what you want to have in it. In this case I just want to do a text, and this is going to be, as this project is here in Bruges in Belgium. Something like this. I'm going to here add then maybe 2 photos. First of all is going to be my client logo, and then I might want to have my own logo as well. Something like this, you have a header, what it is, and you have some logos. Next, I would want to do a graph. I select this box is supposed to be a graph, and I can select 1 or more variables to be displayed on my graph. In this case, I am going to select here my weather station, and I'm going to select my rainfall. And notice I'm going to select my rainfall twice. So I have my rainfall selected twice. I have here 2 variables. I'm going to expand the first one, and I want to change it to columns. I then going to select my other rainfall. I'm going to change the name, and I'm going to call it rainfall cumulative. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to an area, and under data I'm going to change it to cumulative. That means it will take all of the data over the time period I'm looking at and actually do a cumulative plot. I will then actually move my cumulative data to the right hand side. So it'll be using the right y-axis of my graph. My graph doesn't look maybe too good at the moment. Is I will simply remove the auto scale here on the right hand or the left hand side, and I will also remove the auto scale on the right hand side. I will then actually change the color the color on the left hand side is going to be blue because the blue variable on my graph belongs to that one, and the right one is going to be red. And this is going to be rainfall. I'm going to here on the right hand side of my graph to create something called Numeric Indicator. And again, I'm going to select my rainfall. I'm going to change the name to rainfall monthly. I do not want to just plot the last value. I want to do the cumulative. I want to do the summary over the last month. So it is going to take, in this case, last month or the current month, so just from first to the last of the month. Next up, I want to create on a graph, which I'm going to include my battery readings. I have here 2 battery readings, and I also want to do a needle gauge. I can only select 1 battery reading for my needle gauge, but my needle gauge is just a different way to display my battery. I want to say my minimum value is 8 and my maximum value is 15. In this case, maybe go for 20. And it's just a gauge showing the status of my battery. I could here quickly do 8 to 11 as a red highlight color if I wanted to. And then I could also add a highlight color going from 11 to 13, which might be a yellow one. But everything above 13 to 20 just is a green one. So anybody that's looking at it saying, all right, my battery is okay. What is good to include is, or what you can include, is you actually can include external information. In this case, I can go here to the text, and I'm not expecting you to remember it, but you can actually click the code view. I'm going to click the code view, and I'm actually going to embed a weather forecast. So this is actually a weather forecast that I'm grabbing on the weather service is publishing a new picture every hour, so the new picture is always being grabbed. In this project, I also have a webcam. I maybe forgot to show you how to import that, but you can always send us an email about that. So here we have a webcam, and the system will always be adding or showing the latest picture. Here I want to include a table view of my piezometers. I don't want to display just the raw data. I might want to do a daily data. And for both of the sensors, I want to get the max value. So I'm actually plotting a table, daily values, and it's going to show me the highest reading of each day of my piezometers. I just have 2 sensors, but we can obviously have more sensors in our table. Daily max values. The 3 last thing here to add at the bottom is our data update overview. So we select the owner, in this case our webinar owner, and here is all of our sites and the age of the data, last timestamp, and so on, so we can be sure that everything is as it should be, everything in the same dashboard. Even though we do not have any alarms, also going to add alarm overview. So alarm overview, if we had any alarms triggered, they will be shown here. Overview. We can then confirm the alarms, view the alarms, and so on. Finally, maybe not the best place to add it here at the bottom, but I am going to add simply a real-time display. So here I'm actually showing the real-time display that we did create here earlier. embedded inside my real-time displays, inside my dashboard, sorry, and it has the same functionality as I was viewing it before. So my dashboard name is called here Project Overview Dashboard, and my owner again is my webinar. The scale here in the setup is how much data you want to view when you open up the dashboard. Default is 1 week. You could change it to shorter time or longer time period. I would not recommend to do 6 months or 1 year if you do not need it, because you can always change it on the fly when you're viewing the dashboard. So just the dashboard is quickly to load up, just select a good amount for the scale. In this case I'm just choosing 1 week, and we click save. If you take a look at our dashboard, we see our logos, we see our rainfall, we see our weather forecast, we see our table, we see our update overview, and we see here at the bottom our real-time display. We can here click each value as before. We can even click the link to go to the other real-time display. What I did not include there, what that could be of interest, is to include a distribution windows. Is that if we added this really quickly, if we scroll at the bottom, we will quickly do something called distribution windows. We will select our wind direction, and we select our filter variable. That is going to be my H2S. So we're doing actually here a distribution windows. So this can be used if you have wind direction and any other parameter that you're interested in seeing. What is the wind direction when I have high value of this particular sensor? Click update. Now this dashboard is updated every minute or every time that you're looking at it with new data. You do not need to do anything else. The client will be happy. He has update overview, alarm overview, access to the graphs, to the numeric indicators, and so on. If we wanted to, and this project required, we could create a GIS map. For a small project with 1-2 stations, a GIS map might simply be like overwhelming, and a real-time display is just as good. However, if a GIS is required, you can simply create a real-time display, create a GIS. You go here to the markers, and you have multiple options to add markers to the GIS map. You can add a dashboard, real-time display, webcam, burst data, which is high-speed readings, displacement graph for in kilometers, or simply variable, which is a graph. I'm going to do a dashboard. I'm simply going to select my dashboard. I could choose here like different icons. I can even upload my own icons. And I'm going to place it where my station is located. You could easily create a webcam. Select your webcam, select a different icon, and place your webcam. If you do a variable, you're just simply choosing your sensors, could be one or more sensors, and you are adding them. So when you click on this marker, it will simply show a pop-up graph. I'm going to add this here a little bit closer to the river. You can also add a real-time display. You can choose here your real-time display. You could do the cross-section or the map overview. And we here choose our icon and we place our icon. So if this is needed, then it's very simple to create a GIS map. You could even include project layers on top of the GIS map. As this project and this client is very important, we would like to create a custom login page for them. We go to Setup and we go to Login Page. You create a new login page. So this is a login page I want my client to view when they are logging into the system. And I have a very friendly interface. I simply start by choosing the background image. I can choose from a couple of predefined images, or I can upload my own picture. I can then upload an icon. In this case, company logo. I could have here, for further information, call VDV at whatever phone number we have here. So this is just shown here at the bottom. Client is the name of my login page, and you can see here the file name is automatically generated, index_client_login.html. So this is the login page that you can send to the client. They will end in the same system as you are used to log in, but they have a dedicated login page just for them. So very easy to do, and it gives just a nice feeling to it. If you are doing it for your own system, it's also a nice feeling just to change the background picture every couple of months, just to give a little bit life to the system. So let's click Save. All right, we are now getting to the end of this webinar, but we have two things left to do. One is to create a report that we want to be sent out every month. And then at the end, we are going to create a user account for our client to log in. So let's take a look at the reports. We are going to create a new report. And on the right hand side, we are going to do here client monthly report, just the name of our report. We select the owner or webinar owner. And before we do anything, I want to create a title page. I select the title page, and the title page is automatically created. I need to select the main picture that will be shown at the cover of my report. I will do my main title as monthly report, done by VDV, and I will select the logo. So this is the company logo, could be the client logo, could be your own logo. We click Close. Then it's a good idea to add header and footer. The header could say here monthly report, and the footer could say your web page, for example. We are then ready to create the first page. You simply click here the plus page button at the bottom, and a new page is created. We can see the header at the bottom, we can see the footer. If we click component setup, we can see the components that are available. We have heading, we have text, we have graph, photos, displacement graph, scatter plots, and table view. We are first going to add a heading, and we'll type here just monthly report. We then want to add some text, some introduction about this report, and we have some introduction here. I then want to include a couple of project photos, could be installation pictures, something nice to show the client. Let's say we have 2 pictures. I then want to do a graph here. When you're doing a graph in a report, you can either create a new graph from scratch, or you can use the editor, graph selector, to choose a graph that you have already created somewhere else, either in a dashboard, historical data, which I did not cover in this session, or in other reports. I'm going to choose dashboard. I have just one dashboard, so I just select that one. I click next, and it will actually show all graphs that are available on this dashboard. I will choose my rainfall, click select, and it's automatically added. Same settings, same colors, same everything. Couldn't be easier. So let's create a new page. I want to add another graph, and here I'm going to add my battery. Finally, I want to create one more page, which is going to be a table view. Again, I can select any sensors that I want here, and I could do a here daily average. Is that I can choose if I want to do the raw data. You need to think about if you're doing a raw data, and if you're downloading data over 1 month and you have 10-minute data, the table will become enormous. So bear that in mind. But I'm going to do summary over each day. When I click on each sensor in my report, I could then choose if I want to do average over the day, sum over the day, max or min. For this case, I'm just doing average. I click here, close. At the end, I choose my schedule. I'll simply activate it. I want to do a monthly report, and I can choose what is the how much data is in my report. Default, it is 1 month, so it will be sent on the first of each month, including 1 month of data. However, you can also include last 2 months, so the last month and the month before. And then you simply choose, I want to run it 8 o'clock each morning, includes last 2 months of data. So 8 o'clock you will get a fresh report in your inbox, and you can just send it to your client. Or you can send it to yourself as the maintenance group. You look at it and then you forward it to the client. You could even do a contact group that could be called reports, include both yourself and the client, and send it to you both. With the report, you can always download it on demand. So if you want to do a custom report, you can always just choose a custom time period and click download, and the system will download it for you. All right, we have set up everything. We have created an owner. We have inputted some data. We have created contact groups. We have done virtual variables. We have done the alarms, both the 2 upper and 2 lower limits alarm, also the bulk alarms. We did a real-time display. We linked them together. We did a dashboard where we had a lot of information on the dashboard. We did a GIS map. We did a custom login page for our client. We did a report. And now we are simply doing a user for our client. We go to user, setup, and then user. We simply have one user, which is ourselves. So we want to create a new user. Just called here client. The full name could be John and Maria. The password, in this case, just going to be 1234. The default page is very important. That is what they see when they log in. Do you want them to look at a real-time display? Do you want them to look at GIS map, or do you want them to look at a dashboard, for example? In this case, I want them to log in and see a dashboard when they, first thing that they see. The user role, if you have many users, or let's say you have a client that will have 10 users that everybody is going to log in, or you have 10 staff members that everybody should have the same privileges, you could even create a user role, which is like a template. So you just choose the template and everything will be pre-selected for you. We need to select the owner. So now the owner comes into play. We select the webinar owner, and what will happen is that this user will only be able to see data, see dashboard, real-time displays, GIS, and so on that have the webinar owner. So that is very important. If you scroll down here, we have two big boxes. One is called Feature, the other one is called Setup. As you expect, in the Feature box is all of the features in the system, and under Setup are all of the setup options. This client should not be able to make any changes, but I need to give them access to Dashboard so they can view the dashboard. I want to give them access to GIS. I want to give them access to real-time display. I want to give them access to alarm overview, but I also want to give them access to confirm the alarms. I will give them access to documents, but only to view documents that I will upload on a later stage. I will also give them access to notes, but only to view documents, but not to add or change other notes. I will give them access to update overview, so they can look at the update overview and see everything is as it should be. And I'll maybe give them access to able to scroll data, windrows, and other items here. So I'm quickly just going to maybe select most of it here. Under Setup, we're not giving them access to alarm setup, contact setup, dashboard setup, real-time display setup, and so on. So they're just viewing data. Next, we have the data source. Do we want this user to be able to import new data or make changes to our data import? In this case, no. So we do not give them access to any data source. Eventually, here at the bottom, we are selecting what visualization or what data that this user can see. I recommend to give them access to all site, all dashboards, and all the real-time displays. That means everything that you will create with this owner, either a dashboard or a real-time display, this user will automatically get access to. You can select one specific real-time display and one specific dashboard, but that means if you create a new real-time display or a dashboard in the future, you need to manually edit this user and give them access to it. So that is the reason for why it's very important just to use the owners correctly, so the user setup is much easier. So I'm going to give him access to both. So just let's take a quick look at it. One thing that we could do if it's our client, let's say it's our paying customer, we could have the client expire at a specific point. If they had paid throughout January 2021, then after that they can't log in if we wanted that. Under language is that you can actually create a new language in the system, so the whole web interface is translated automatically into a different language. It's not translated automatically, you actually need to create a new language, but if you choose that language on the new user, when they log in, the whole interface will be displayed in a different language. One thing to note, it's not affected to anything that you type in. So if you type a text inside a dashboard, for example, in English, and the user is logging in here in Spanish, that text, because you typed it in English, will be displayed in English. However, everything else, for example, basic information, if you expand the menu, alarms, completeness, dashboard, and everything will be displayed in Spanish. So I'm going to click Save. Now I would be ready to send this information to the client. What I would send them is the index_client_login.html. This is the custom login page I created for this user or this client. So instead of just viewing my normal login page, they will see their own custom login page. They could type in here client 1234 and they could log in. You can see they're automatically taken to the dashboard that we did create. Everything looks good. They have all of the data, all of the information that they need. You can also see on the left-hand side, everything is much simpler. We have the alarm overview, we have the dashboard, we have document, we haven't uploaded any documents. They can download data. They can only download data that they have access to, which is everything under the webinar owner. They can take a look at the GIS map. GIS map You can click on any marker. This marker was connected to our dashboard. This marker is connected to our real-time display. This marker is connected to our webcam, for example. They can take a look at the notes. We do not have any notes at the moment, but notes are, like a side note, very, very powerful and simple to use. So I'd recommend you to take a look at the notes after this session. They can take a look at the real-time display. They can take a look at the data update overview. They can also take a look at the webcam. So in about an hour or so, with a lot of explaining, we have gone over the whole project setup. Obviously, if you have 500 sensors, 50 data loggers, this will take a little bit longer, but we're not talking about days or months on end. If you have any questions after this session, send us an email to support@vistadatavision.com. We could do, as I said in the beginning, do a dedicated session where we are covering or focusing more on features that you are using in your projects. Also, if you're doing something manually or doing something outside Vista Data Vision or even inside Vista Data Vision that you feel is taking a long time, send us an email. There is probably a better way to do it, or we can assist you either with improving Vista Data Vision or doing something outside Vista Data Vision. So we want project setup and to get things up and running to be quick, easy, intuitive, and then you can focus on the important things and let Vista Data Vision manage and monitor your data, sending the client, sending your colleagues alarms, emails, text message, reports, and so on automatically. So that is it for today. I did not obviously cover everything in Vista Data Vision in this hour, and this setup is not fit for all projects. Items that I did not cover is, for example, validation. So the system can automatically validate your data and remove unwanted data. We did not look at the inclinometers or displacement graphs. We did not look at to import seismic data using the burst data function. And we did not look at to include or to add new notes or documents. However, these all features have a specific video on our YouTube page, so youtube.com/VistaDataVision if you want to take a closer look. Again, thank you for today. Send us an email, take a look at our help docs. Until next time, take care.